Welcome in, fans, to the first ever Two Line Pass podcast pregame show. Brandon, Dustin with you live, 30 minutes to puck drop, Utah versus Anaheim. The Ducks in town. Dustin, welcome in. What do you think? Our first ever pregame show. How you doing tonight?
First ever. We didn't even plan it this way, but this is a national broadcast game on TNT, so there's no pregame on like SCG Plus or anything like that. So we are probably the only avenue giving you a pregame show for tonight. So I'm stoked. I'm thrilled. I cannot wait. Excited for this one. I always look forward, just because being a 90s kid, I always look forward to playing the Ducks.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost was going to type the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, as I wasn't sure because they kind of flip-flop, with the maybe some throwback jerseys. So, but they have decided to drop the Mighty, just the Anaheim Ducks, and hopefully no Charlie Conways, because I'll be honest, Dustin, we have not had success against Anaheim this year. This is the third time that we play the Ducks, and we are losers of the previous two, both in extra time, once in overtime and once in the shootout. But this is a game, again, we are in the territory where we cannot, it sounds weird to say, but we cannot lose. Like we literally can't lose through going forward if we want to make the playoffs. So these are just crucial points at stake, and we are on a 3-game point streak, but 2 of those 3 games we were only able to take 1 point, and it seems like we're so close, right? We're still so close. The wild card spot is just right there for the taking, but we just have not capitalized on our opportunities. So this is a must win here against a Ducks team that is not terrible and not nearly as bad as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, they're not terrible. And like you were talking about the points that we've previously picked up in the previous games. Like I was happy with the outcome of that Toronto game. Like I told both you and our missing co-host Ryan that I was going to bed a little early because I had to be to work early the next day. So I laid my head down to fall asleep down 3-0 and woke up to a 4-3 shootout loss, which granted you want 2 points, but I was happy taking 1 from there, especially at the point when we're down 3-0. Plus, we got to see future Utah Mammoth star Mitch Marner score one of the first of many game-winning goals in the Delta Center. So a little bit of a bright side to a loss, but yeah, I'm happy. We are. If you look at the standings right now, we could end the night, depending on how the Calgary-Vancouver game goes, where we can get into that a little bit in terms of who we want to win that game. But I believe if Vancouver wins in regulation and Utah wins tonight, we'll go to bed 2 points back of the wild card, which is well within striking distance. I said on an episode of the podcast about a week and a half ago or so, when I went over the roadmap of how we needed to navigate through the end of the season, that we just need to be within striking distance of Vancouver, because we have an easier final 5-game stretch at the end of the year. So I think we are positioning ourselves very well, but we have to win tonight. We realistically have to take 6 points in our next 3 games. Like we have to win these next 3 games if we want to be there at the end of the year. This is a very, very important, what I called the other night, the most important week in Utah Hockey Club franchise history, short as it may be, but by far the most important week. We started it off with 1 point in the toughest game. Now we need 2 tonight, and quite honestly, 2 in each game the rest of the way.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And in this, if we look in the standings, it's actually kind of interesting. I was going to go back and actually listen to your roadmap, and I think you've plotted it out almost exactly how we needed to do. Obviously, we would have liked a couple of wins instead of overtime losses, but to take even a point away from Toronto, I think it kind of balances out, because I think that was a game that we looked at that potentially we could have gotten no points out of, and it absolutely looked like it was headed that way until a phenomenal second period effort. But yeah, you guys, as you look at the standings here, Utah is just right there with the rest of the teams in the West, and Calgary and Vancouver play tonight. So we need one of them to win in regulation, ideally Vancouver. An overtime game there. Yeah, if it goes to overtime, that is literally the worst case scenario, especially a Calgary win in overtime is literally worst case. Both teams getting a point, and Calgary extending their lead, especially if Utah's unable to win tonight. But if Utah's unable to win tonight, like, you really start to look at the prospects, and it looks grim. I think Money Puck has us still at a 21% chance to make the playoffs. And if we lose tonight against Anaheim, that chance I would imagine goes to 15% or below. Still a favorable back half of the schedule. But the games are, I mean, this is it, right? 18 games remaining. So you can't go 500 over those 18 and make the playoffs. You have to win almost all of them, or a very big majority of them, to make the playoffs. But it should be an exciting game. And we actually didn't have a chance to do an episode this week. And it was a late game on Tuesday. I was actually at the first two periods of that game. We did I don't know if any of the fans out there have done the Nomi Health app, like the lofts, the little club seats above the Nomi Health section. If you look at the section, it's like 122 or something. There's the like box seats in the upper deck. I don't know if you've noticed those, Dustin, in that top row, but above that is the active lofts, and it's quite a nice little place. You get your free hot dog and soda, and they've just got some nice seats. Now, it is as far away from the ice as I have ever been, and not nearly as good as some of the corner standing room only areas. But still, if you got some kids, it's a place for them to run around and not disturb anybody. There wasn't too many people up there. The seats were comfortable, so we really enjoyed it, and got to watch the most exciting second period I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, you saw a Superman punch.
I was just going to say,
and then a complete and perfect total response from Utah. I believe they scored like 2 goals in the next like 2 minutes and 18 seconds after that Superman punch. So yeah, that kind of fueled up I'm not sure it was so much the Superman punch as the 27 punches directly to the face that followed the Superman punch that pumped up the crowd and the team so much. But it was a fun one.
Oh, absolutely! I think they got all 3 of their goals in within 4 minutes of that fight. I think they were still serving the 5-minute major after the third goal from Utah. But yeah, that was one of those where, if you watched on Twitter, the picture of the Superman punch, right, looked awesome. Like, if you're a Toronto fan, like, that's a super hype picture. You don't often see that, but there's a reason you don't often see that, because it completely failed. He completely missed the punch and then just got absolutely walloped. Kesselring lands 4 or 5 good ones, and then they go down to the ice. And then he's talking, you know what? I didn't even see what actually happened. I think Kesselring took a shot at somebody else, and Benoit took exception to it and goes after him. Benoit's chirping as if he had won the fight, as if he had landed his Superman punch, which he absolutely did not. He kind of got embarrassed, except for the fact that the picture got taken. Whoever that photographer was, very, very, very good picture, but a very, very bad outcome for Benoit after that picture. So he'll remember the picture most of all, and we'll remember the fight and then the aftermath of that. But great. But looking ahead to this game, I think if you're looking for things that you need, you absolutely need your best players to show up. Clayton Keller continues to roll this season. He has been the best player on the ice. I think now with some of the injuries, it was kind of like, whether he was just Mr. Consistent. Obviously, he's Mr. Versatile, but he has without a doubt been the best player on this team. He's got 9 points in his last 5 coming into this game. Nick Schmaltz is turning it on offensively, not just in the assist category, but in the goals category, 4 in his last 5. But you're going to need more than just Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz to be a factor. Obviously, we all know what happens when Dylan Guenther scores. We win the game. But I would like to see Logan Cooley get on the score sheet. I'd like to see Jack McBain get back on the in the goal tally, and Barrett Hayton's got to have a big game as well. You need your top 2 lines to produce, and it should be a great game with Veggie getting his first start against Anaheim. The 2 losses, Ingram and Stauber, the stopper, were in net. But that's kind of, I think you need your best lines to produce, and Veggie just needs to play Veggie hockey, and we're going to get a win. But is there anything in particular you're watching for tonight, Dustin?
What I'm watching for is whether or not we can take the old adage of the Mighty Ducks of take the fall, act hurt, get indignant. The key to winning this game, the key to comfortably winning this game, is getting Anaheim into the penalty box. They are 27th in the league in penalty kill. So if Utah can get them into the box and actually execute, put pucks on net during a power play, that's a great opportunity for Utah to score. Obviously, I'm not breaking any like groundbreaking news saying, oh yeah, get a few power plays and then score on your power plays. But Anaheim is a team that will let you, and you can play aggressive. If you give up a couple of penalties, Anaheim is 31st in the league in the power play. They only score on 12.9% of their power plays. So they're a bad special teams team. So that's one area that I'm going to watch for, is Utah's special teams can easily win this game.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before about Utah's special teams kind of being streaky, kind of being a roller coaster team, like really high highs, really low lows this year with their power play and the penalty kill. But they have, over the course of the season, have stabilized to be in the top half of the league. Like you said, 11th on the power play, 13th on the penalty kill. We have a chance to boost those numbers, right? We could, if we could pad those stats against Anaheim, that would be absolutely phenomenal. But I want to kind of talk about, if you'll allow me, Dustin, and kind of shift to kind of a big narrative going on. And we talk about Torigny's coaching a lot on this podcast, but Michelli missing the game again. O'Brien remains in the lineup, and now Vejmelka with his 8th consecutive start. This is the most consecutive starts he's had in his season. Not just 8. I think his most previous was 5 in a row, and that was earlier this year when Ingram's out. So some interesting decisions made by Torigny. Now, we have stated at length that we thought Vejmelka should have been the guy for a long time, right? But yeah, Ingram goes down, and that's what causes Vejmelka to be the guy before. Now, when Ingram comes back, Torigny goes right back to his 1-1-1 kind of thing. And then leading up to it, we think, and I think the fans thought, okay, Torigny's seen the light. Vejmelka's his guy. And then Ingram enters the player assistance program, which we know there's an outpouring of love. We want to see Ingram come back from it. We understand he's had an incredibly difficult year, but I think it has to be said. That I don't know how much of Vejmelka's current starts are coming because Torigny thinks he's the best goalie, or how much of this is coming because Torigny knew Ingram was going through it, and it was unfair to put Ingram on the ice and unfair to the team to put Ingram on the ice. And I'm glad that Ingram made the decision to go to the player assistance program to basically remove that hesitation. And now he's started. And without that, I don't know if, I mean, Vejmelka obviously, like, what did Bill Armstrong know? And did that, you know me, I can't trust Turney. I can't trust anything. So I can't trust that they saw Vejmelka was the best option, that this is all just because they had to, because Ingram couldn't go. I'm sorry. I can't trust him.
As someone who's been around a lot of people who struggle with depression and just personal issues, a lot of the time you just keep it quiet and you keep it to yourself. I think that if at the beginning of this Vejmelka like starting streak, if the team had known, Ingram would have already entered the program. I think for a while there, Ingram was probably just keeping it to himself, trying to be strong, trying to keep it together for the team, and he was just he was the backup goalie at that point. I think that if he knew he was struggling that much and the team knew he was struggling that much, he would have entered the program a little bit sooner rather than just, okay, we're going to start Vejmelka if you're not in the right headspace. So and especially with the statement that Ingram put out saying that he realized he's not in his right mind, he's not himself, and that's why he was going to enter the program. I don't think it was his struggles that made Coach Turney start Vejmelka. I will give him credit for seeing the light, as you say, and making the right choice between the goalies. I'm not going to discredit him just because of what Ingram is going through. And obviously, if you're listening to this, you're probably not at the game, but at the game, somebody on Twitter has put together like a cards for Ingy, little like get together. I'll say a little meetup to write out cards for Ingram to send him while he's going through the players program. And then they also set up, I probably should have taken the time to find this, but they also set up an email address for fans to send their thoughts and well wishes to Connor Ingram as he goes through the player assistance program. So if you've got some time and you want to reach out and let Connor Ingram know how much you support him, how much Utah and the franchise and everybody here loves him and supports him and can't wait to see him get back and better than ever, search out that email address and send it. Randon, if you've got anything to say, take the next minute or so, and I'll find that email address so that we can give it out and let anybody who's listening able to send their own email, their own thoughts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And while you're looking, I know it's in the second intermission when the card drop off is, and you can actually, the person who's doing it actually has cards and pencils and pens, so you can actually write it at the game. It's at the second intermission. I think it's outside. I don't know what portal it is, but it's outside the Costa Vida. Maybe look. But if you can find that post,
yes, the Costa Vida.
Yeah, outside the Costa Vida, I'm not familiar enough with the Delta Center to say, like, I spend all my time in the upper deck, living by the free hot dog stand, right? I've been taking advantage of that Smith's promotion, guys. If you haven't, I don't know how many tickets are available. I don't think very many, but that Smith's promotion has been pretty good to me and my family. It's the only way we could really afford to go. $600 for a game is tough for your average family. So props to those of you who can afford the season tickets. Props to you who can afford to go quite often. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been an incredible season. But while you're looking that up, I'm going to go on my anti-Turney rant.
I have it here so that, but before we
stop the rant. Okay.
Before we change the subject, it's put together by Nacho Likes Puck on Twitter or on X if you like to stay up to date with names. Jackie J, who is at Nacho Likes Puck, collecting cards during the second intermission by Costa Vida. They'll have papers and pens, but if you already have a card, that works too. And then the email address, if you want to send a personal email to get it to Connor Ingram, it is letters to Ingy, INGY, letters to Ingy @gmail.com. So just fire off an email, let Connor Ingram know that you're in his corner, how much we love him, how much we believe in him, and how much you can't wait to see him back and better than ever. So now you can go on your anti-Coach Turney rant.
Thank you. Thank you. And as we've stated on this podcast too, like none of my anti-Turney rants are anti-players because I like the players. I like all of them. I think Connor Ingram's a phenomenal goalie. I think he's a phenomenal human being, and I wish him nothing but the best, right? Like I dislike the coach. I don't dislike the players. And because of that, I think we have to talk about the situation with Matias Maccelli. Now, Houston Brogan talked about, I might say, is it Brogan Houston or is it Houston Brogan? I feel bad now. Sorry. But he talked about how he's tried to get interviews with Maccelli and he's been stymied every time. He hasn't been able to be interviewed. And he asked Turney about it. And Turney says nothing. He literally says nothing about a guy who's been benched for 10 straight games now and no comments. No injury.
He did make some comments the other day just saying that sometimes players go through rough stretches and this hasn't been Matias Maccelli's best season and he's had some struggles and he wants him to bounce back and come back better. So he hasn't stayed completely silent. He has made some comments about how this hasn't been Maccelli's best year, which isn't wrong. Maccelli certainly has some rough spots, but I don't think that the gap between a bad Maccelli and O'Brien, who's taking his spot in the lineup, I don't think that that's a big enough gap to keep Maccelli off the ice for this long of a stretch. Like we've talked about it before. Turney has sat players and made them healthy scratches to send a message and brought them immediately back after one game. So if it's just a message, he'd already be back. And I don't know, maybe Turney sees the value in Tuna going out there and taking a couple of punches to the face and then skating off like this to the Delta Center crowd. So maybe we see Matias Maccelli come back in an away game where they don't need to pump up the crowd with a Liam O'Brien fight. But it is perplexing because I don't think that Liam O'Brien is good enough to consistently and permanently keep Maccelli off the ice.
No, absolutely not. I'm glad you brought up that he was not silent because he gave a total bullshit answer. And I didn't believe anything that Turney said in there because there have been so many forwards who are struggling, so many slumping forwards that are just not getting it done. And then the comments were coming out that, well, Maccelli's not a physical player. He doesn't go hard enough. This whole team isn't a physical team. Nobody on this team is physical. Are you kidding me? Like that's the Utah brand of hockey we play? No, it's not. We're not a physical team. We're a speed team. So don't give me that crap that he's just not physical enough because nobody is. Right? Even O'Brien doesn't finish his checks. He tries, he misses half of them, and he's not that good of a fighter. I love him. He's a hype man, though. We said it on the podcast. He's no better than a hype man. Get him on the broadcast because that's his job. Kesselring has more fight wins than O'Brien, but no. We love spicy tuna.
We should have dragged Ryan into this because Ryan is like the lone solo tuna defender amongst us who I wouldn't have guessed preseason that he'd be the one of us three who defends him. I honestly thought I was going to love Liam O'Brien. And truthfully, I do. I love spicy tuna. I like watching him, especially fighting. I like seeing him pump up the crowd. But he just doesn't provide enough to permanently keep another skater, especially one as skilled as Maccelli, off the ice. Like that. Like if you want to rotate them like you rotated your goalies, fine. If you're going to play like O'Brien against a physical team, like against some of the more physical teams, and you want that presence, like if you're going to play a team with a Kachuk on it, and you want him to punch him in the face, then by all means start O'Brien. But there are speed teams and other teams that you want speed and skill against. Play Maccelli in those games because it's gotten past the point of sending a message, and I don't know what's going on. And like you, I would like some answers.
Yep. That's why I think there is some something going on. But let's take a look at the projected lineups that have been shared with the team. We've only got a few more minutes before we're going to send you guys off to remember the game's on TNT and on Max. There, it is not on Utah 16. And I don't believe it's on SEG Plus, but don't quote me on that. I didn't check. But here's the projected lineups. It's the same lineup that we threw out against Toronto. I would really like the Krause, McBain, Doan line to score. I think it's their being, they had some high energy. That line worked initially. I would like to see them get on the score sheet. I would like to see Alexander Kerfoot get on the score sheet because he is playing top 6 minutes, and I need to see Kerfoot get some more goals, get some more assists. I need the points. You're not a fourth line grinder anymore, Kerfoot. I can't defend you to say that you're Mr. Consistent, because on the fourth line, I don't expect anything from you. But if you're on the first and second line, I start to have expectations for you. And the expectation is that you get a goal tonight, Kerfoot. You got to get a goal. And then we look at Carconi and Stenlund, who I think are just perfect on that fourth line. And then it's just O'Brien down there who, there he is. But I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. For as much as I don't want Michelli benched. I don't want Michelli on the fourth line. I don't think he's just a plug and play with O'Brien. I don't think he fits in that fourth line at all. And so what I would like to see is you move Kerfoot back to the fourth line and you plug Michelli back in on that second line. I think Michelli, Hayton, and Gunther is a great line. And I don't think that Michelli would underproduce with that line. So I would like to see it. It's not going to happen, though. I think at this point, I think the development just isn't happening. Turney doesn't have, in my opinion, the ability to develop a player like Michelli. He's the type of coach that just hopes that the best players are good. And I said it on Twitter that if he has no expectations, that's when he's a good coach. When he has expectations, he's not a good coach. He cannot take this team to the next level. He can basically just guide them towards mediocrity. That's my honest to God opinion of Andre Turney. And that's the best part about the Two Line Pass podcast. When you're listening to us, we're not paid by the team. We're not beat writers. So we get to tell you the honest truth that you guys know, that you see, but that the beat writers have to tiptoe around, right? Because they need access. Right? They don't want to be stonewalled by the team. And the teams play, like, you're not going to hear this from the announcers because the checks are written and they want to keep their jobs. So they have to find the positives in everything, right? And they can't question things. And this team is not bad enough to where that becomes like a talking point, right? Where you just get to say that. So you're going to get the refreshing, honest takes from us. And I hope that you continue to listen to our game, post-game, pre-game, whatever, and then our regularly scheduled episodes. And I hope you're just interacting with us out there on Twitter, dropping us a line, dropping us a like, a follow, whatever the case may be. But I'm done ragging on Turney. It's almost game time.
All right.
Dustin, any final thoughts before we send this one off?
You covered what to expect from the Utah Hockey Club. I will quickly go over what to expect from the Ducks. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They gave up 7 goals in a loss last night, so they're coming in on a back-to-back. They're led in goals by Frank Vetrano, assists by Troy Terry. Some of the names you need to know is probably one of the more household names on the team is Mason McTavish, Ryan Strom. And Leo Carlson is probably another name that you recognize. Those are who you need to look for on the ice tonight. Those are the names that if I had the time to do a getting to know the opponent, I probably would have tossed those names on there. A website's coming soon. When we get that up, I will have blog posts and articles about getting to know the teams that we're playing instead of TikTok videos. I didn't think that was a very good format in which to do that. So blog posts teaching you more about the league, about the teams that we play, and a website that is coming soon will be twolinepass.com.
That's why I think, Dustin, you talked about how this was the most important week in this season for Utah, but that could have just as well been about the Two Line Pass podcast website. Launching soon, blog posts, videos, everything. You can still find us on all of your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify. Those are the only 2 I use. So any of the Podbean is where we host. So any others that you hear, and then of course join us at on YouTube at the Two Line Pass. And guys, thank you so much for watching the pregame show. Go watch on TNT on Max. Go watch Utah take on the Anaheim Ducks. Everybody, if you're in the stands, enjoy the game. This is going to be a late one. Hopefully no more free hockey. Win in regulation. Go Vancouver. Beat Calgary in regulation. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Club the Ducks.